They put it in the essays, which are almost impossible to find, even if you know that they're there on the church website. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, you talk about these essays, where are they? I try and find them on the church website. And I have to give them a map because they're 3 clicks deep.
I don't understand why people don't just Google it. It takes like 2 seconds. Gospel Topics Essays. There it is. Hey guys, it's Steven Smelanich. I am going to be looking at Midnight Mormons versus Radio Free Mormon. I went to this debate recently. It was pretty crazy, and I had some thoughts that I wanted to throw out there. I recommend you watch the debate after you watch my video, or watch it before, because I think that Midnight Mormons put out some important things that I'm not discussing right now. I'm just kind of overlaying what they're saying and adding some things here and there.
And we have the esteemed RFM. Oh, you poor guys. Oh, shit. Hang in there. I'm going to try to keep them calm.
I served in Buenos Aires, Argentina when the war in Iraq started. This doesn't even
Court. And then another thing is, like, partway through this, they kind of get confused as to what exactly Radio Free Mormon believes in. It's like, is he agnostic or is he atheist? Is Radio Free Mormon his legal name, or is that just what he goes by? Because I couldn't find his legal name, so I just assume it's Radio Free Mormon. They could have gone with intros. Why do you believe? What do you believe in? And why do you think others should believe the way that you do? They should have started with that. That would have really helped to clear a lot of things up.
Please speak to how and why you feel the Book of Mormon is holy, inspired, writ from God. Include your thoughts and beliefs on origin, translation, errors, if any, and whether you feel there is an authentic material basis for the storyline. In the end, give us your best pitch for the book that Joseph Smith said was the most correct of any book on earth, the keystone of our religion, and a man would get nearer to God by abiding its precepts than any other book.
I think what I would add to that is the book is the most correct of any book on earth, not the 100% perfect book. So of course there's going to be errors because it was all made through man, and while God is perfect, mankind is not perfect. And when a perfect being has to work with imperfect beings, there are going to be some errors in the translation. There are going to be some errors in grammar, in lots of different things. But what's important is whether or not the doctrine is pure and perfect, whether or not it stands up to scrutiny, whether or not it's something that is beneficial to our lives. And I have seen it benefit a lot of people's lives to know that they are literally children of God. It is a huge benefit for people, even if you can't 100% prove it. Just simply believing that you are a divine being, it makes you feel like you can do anything. And so you really go out there and you really put yourself out there and you try to accomplish what you can.
Well, the church has known this forever, that this is how he dictated the Book of Mormon, and yet for the last century, until the essays, until the word got out, right? Until the word got out, they have portrayed it as Joseph Smith looking at the plates themselves and translating the actual characters that were actually written on the plates. And then, when the word got out to too many people, what's my time, Sean? When the word got out to too many people, it achieved critical mass that people were finding out that actually Joseph Smith was taking his seer stone that he used in treasure digs, putting it in his hat, putting his face over the hat. By the way, the exact same thing he did when he was trying to locate treasure. Exactly the same modus operandi. And then he's dictating the text of the Book of Mormon out of his hat. The church has known that since the very beginning. And yet, it was only when it achieved critical mass and too many people knew about it that 2015 comes along, and they take the seer stone out of the church historian's vault, where the church had it. right? They knew it was there. They bring it out for a photo op. I think it was the October Ensign magazine. And then they put it back in the safe. So they knew. And then when they find out that...
Who cares how the Book of Mormon was translated, whether he did it with a Seer Stone or with Google Translate? The point is that he translated an ancient record. I don't think the church was trying to hide the Seer Stone from people. I think they just didn't think it was important that people knew about the Seer Stone. The point was that Joseph Smith translated it from an ancient record, and that ancient record gives us worth and value and has lots of good inspired verses in there. I mean, like, who can't take something really awesome from Ether 12? Everybody loves Ether 12. It's such a powerful scripture. It's such a powerful chapter in the Book of Mormon that talks about human weakness and how God works through imperfect beings and how he will make weak things become strong. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? That's a great message. Radio Free Mormon keeps talking about how, the church was hiding stuff from him, and he's very miffed about that, especially the Seer Stone. Again, so what if Joseph Smith stuck his face in a hat to look at a rock? So what if the church didn't think that was important to tell members? So what if we didn't fully figure out about it until the internet? The internet revealed so many things that we didn't know about before, not just about the church, but about, like, the U.S. history, about everything in general. The internet exploded information upon everybody that nobody even knew about before. And so when I talk to my parents, they tell me that they didn't feel like the church was hiding anything from them. Sure, they didn't really know about the Seer Stone, but looking back on it, they didn't think it was important to know about the Seer Stone. They just thought it was important to know that the Book of Mormon was real. We need to stop looking at the church from such a negative viewpoint, from looking at it as, everything they do is malicious, because it's not. It's a good church filled with good people that are just trying to do their best. And sometimes there are some unsavory people, but for the majority of the church, I'd say we always try to do our best. We are always trying to help those in need. We're always trying to do what we can. Just look at the welfare program. Just look at the missionary program. Just look at all of these programs that we have to send people out abroad to help those that are in need. Like, we do this more than any other church.
I need to treat these people, even though I revere them as prophets, the same way I would treat anybody else. And in fact, they should be on a higher standard of behavior. They should do things better. I know a lot of times the temptation, I've been there, I was an apologist, for the church. The temptation is, we're going to make an excuse for this apostle for doing something wrong. Or Elder Ballard, right? Elder Ballard says that nobody in the church, none of the leaders of the church have ever hidden anything from anybody. Oh, what a whopper. That was like 4 Pinocchios on that one. And we make excuses for them when actually what we should be doing is holding them to a higher standard because they're apostles of Jesus Christ, or at least they claim to be.
And yet you yourself can't feel so overpressured to be held to a higher standard. How can we expect this to do the same with the prophets and apostles? They're just regular people trying to do the best they can. They're not the ones that are perfect. It's Jesus Christ that's perfect. They're just there to say, we saw Jesus Christ, he's real. Go look at him, don't look at us. That's their whole purpose.
I will say one thing that I do want to say before talking about Kwaku and talking about loving other people, which I think is important. I can't speak for everybody, and I wouldn't presume to speak for you. But my experience in Mormonism is that Mormonism taught me to love people, other people, in spite of who they are. And now that I have transcended and graduated from Mormonism, I understand that I can love people because of who they are. I
don't think I would love a murderer because he's a murderer. You gotta love the murderer in spite that he's a murderer. We shouldn't be loving mediocrity. We shouldn't be loving saying, oh, it's okay, you don't have to do any better than you are. We gotta be helping each other to raise our standards and loving people for who they are as children of God in spite of the terrible things that they've done.
All right, you guys. LDS doctrine and practice to Midnight Mormon crew. Are LDS doctrines eternal in nature? Yes. If so, talk to us about plurality of wives, Joseph Smith's practice of it, and do you personally believe that the specific doctrine is in fact eternal and that it will be practiced after this life in the celestial glories by faithful members who choose to embrace it here or there? To add flavor to the mix, do you believe that Brigham and Joseph, even though the fleshly practice doesn't continue in the present day church today, are still sealed to all of their wives eternally? Do you believe that the two women to whom the present day prophet Russell M. Nielsen is sealed to will be his for eternity after this life? And then finally, and you can just take the zeitgeist of this and
say there's a lot there.
And finally, are you under the impression that the practice may someday return to mortal members here on earth? And if it does, would you participate in it if it was deemed requisite for the highest degree of salvation?
The doctrines of the church are eternal in nature, but they manifest themselves in temporal ways. And so, like, if you want to talk about polygamy, you look at our ancient ancestors, and the majority of them were polygamists. And so the polygamy itself has part in human lives, whether we like it or not. I guarantee you everybody, if you go down the line, eventually you'll find that they're related to some polygamist. Like that, I'm almost sure they did that a lot in like the caveman days. It was sort of like this way of simply, the benefits of polygamy is that it really boosts a population. Whereas polyandry, where a woman is married to multiple men, really slows down the population growth and in fact can decrease it by quite a bit. And so now that we have so many people on Earth, polygamy isn't as necessary anymore. Just one man and one woman is sufficient enough. We have so many people on Earth today that we don't need it anymore. And I can't speak for all women. I know a lot of women feel like it's something that's unequal, that they wouldn't want to deal with, but the fact that it's a part of human lives, that our ancestors practiced it, maybe we should learn to appreciate it a little bit more. And so when it comes to eternal marriage, Denzel and Wendy have a choice whether they want to remain married to Russell M. Nelson in the next life. Getting sealed in the temple isn't a guarantee that you're going to remain married in the next life. It's a promise that you can retain your marriage in the next life as long as you stay on the covenant path. And if you get to the next life and you decide you don't want to be married to that person anymore, that's totally your choice. If Wendy doesn't want to be married to Russell M. Nelson in the next life, she can choose not to be. If Denzel doesn't want to be, then she can choose not to be. It's all about choice. I don't think that heaven isn't going to be about polygamy exclusively. It's about simply being married, unifying a man and a woman together, and something that this one lady brought up in this one video, I'll link it in the description down below, is that she doesn't think that there's going to be more women than men that are exalted. It's simply because God gives equal chances to everyone, male or female. He's no respecter of persons.
It's always like that 1980s commercial. Where's the beef? Well, they keep promising it. And they say it's in the temple. And then I went to the temple. And I tried to love the temple. I really did. I went there the first time in November of 1979 in Provo Temple, right after I got to the MTC. I tried. I really tried. But then, after so long, and after reading apologists talking about, no, it's not Masonry, no, it's not Masonry, no, it's not Masonry, well, guess what? It's Masonry. It is warmed over Masonry. It's like there's a guy out front saying, get your Masonic rituals, get your warmed over Masonic rituals, and a program.
I don't know about you, but I've really grown to love Masonry, especially because of the fact that they have historical roots to Solomon's temple, and which only proves that the temple ceremony itself has roots back to Solomon's temple. So it just adds to my testimony. And it's like, why all the Mason hate? Freemasons are freaking awesome. George Washington was a Mason. Basically, Masons are what built the country. If you really think about it, the majority of the founding fathers were Masons. And so they've never done anything bad. It's not like they're like Al-Qaeda. They've been going around blowing stuff up. They haven't been like doing anything malicious. They're just a cool fraternity. It's like Boy Scouts, but for grown men. So I love Masonry.
2 segments left. Woo! How we doing? Everyone all right? All right. Here we go for the next segment. Mormon issues facing the church today. It's kind of been talked about. We'll bring it up again. Quaker, you already talked about it, mentioned it, but the issue of homosexual relationships has been hotly bandied about in LDS Church for a few decades. Post Prop 8 in California a few years back, there seems to be greater acceptance of homosexuals in the church today than, say, going back 30 years. There seems to be. What would be your individual reactions if the brethren in the next general conference, hypothetically, ordained as an apostle, not a homosexual man, but a lesbian? Would you question that? Would you find that offensive? Would you think that the church was being progressive, or would you think that they were being digressive? Please use this obviously hyperbolic scenario to speak about the homosexual issue in the church relative to worthiness, priesthood ordination, and temple marriages.
So first off, it's brought up a couple of times that there are some homosexuals that are feeling like they don't fully have a place in the church and probably are feeling pretty depressed about their situation. But I gotta say that I have a friend who is gay. He's one of my best friends, and he's one of the nicest people I know. And he loves the church. He finds, I think, simply the idea that something that Kwaku brings up a lot is that the simple idea that we are children of God, that we all have a place in heaven, should bring joy to a person's life, should be enough to bring joy to a person's life. And we need to reflect that in church culture. We need to make sure all LGBTQ plus people feel like they have a place in the church. Like my friend, his family, they have a giant LGBTQ flag above their house, and yet you go in, they have tons of books on the church. They absolutely love the church because of that doctrine that we are children of God. So what would happen if the brethren ordained a lesbian? Well, I suppose I would have to renew my testimony of the Book of Mormon. And then after I renewed my testimony of the Book of Mormon, I would then have to consider whether or not science and philosophy still work. Whether or not everything I know as reality, I would have to I would have to wonder if God's church is not scientifically accurate or not philosophically accurate anymore, which would be a huge detriment to myself. Because, like, especially when we talk about the yin yang, the yin is feminine and the yang is masculine. And it's when the two are working in harmony together that you feel whole, you feel in balance. There's a reason why apostles can't be apostles unless they're married. There's a reason why bishops can't be bishops unless they're married. There's a reason why stake presidents can't be stake presidents unless they're married. There's a reason why mission presidents and members of the 70 and a bunch of others can't be where they are unless they're married, because it's that unification of male and female that really makes a person whole. And then you can talk about and gender itself is not a social construct. It is very much an eternal thing. It is a part of our being. You could talk about the gender equality paradox, where in places like Switzerland and Sweden, where gender equality is all the rampage, and yet jobs are not equal in gender. It's not 50-50 men and women in the fire department. It's almost all men. There are some women, but it's almost all men. And there are tons of women and more so than men, in like nursing programs or with programs that deal with children. And what that tells me is that when people are free to choose what they want, they specifically are inclined to do what their hormones, depending on what their hormones in their body are all about. If you have a lot of testosterone, you're going to be more into masculine things. If you have a lot of estrogen, you're going to be more into feminine things. That's just how biology works. And like, you can look at some tribes. There are some tribes that maybe lean a little bit more masculine, and some tribes that maybe lean a little bit more feminine for both men and women. But universally, across all cultures, all tribes, men have been the primary hunters, and women have been the primary gatherers and the caretakers of children. Until somebody shows me a tribe, whether existing today or from the past, where it was the men that were the primary caregivers and gatherers, and women were the primary hunters, I am inclined to believe that gender is not a social construct, but is eternal in nature and goes along with human biology. And so with that in mind, it would make sense that the perfect human being is the unification of masculinity and femininity. Homosexuals can't have children. According to just science in general, you can't make a child out of 2 sperm, and you can't make a child out of 2 eggs. It requires a sperm and an egg. I'm starting to get into Darwinian evolution, where it's talking about survival of the fittest. It's not that you're super strong, but because the dinosaurs were immensely strong, but they got wiped out. It's about whether or not you pass on your genes. It's about whether or not you have children that makes you fit in the Darwinian sense of the term. And so children are literally the literal manifestations of the verse that says that men and women should be one flesh. I am my mother and my father. I am a combination of both, the masculinity and the femininity. Although because I'm a man, biologically, I lean more so towards masculine things. But a whole person is someone that is very much in tune with what Carl Jung calls the anima, the very feminine side of a man, or for women it's the animus. Although the masculine side for me takes prominence, I still should have a good understanding of my anima and integrate it into myself to become whole. And so when I have children, I continue on the bloodline of my parents, and they continue on through their grandchildren, and I continue on through them as well. And every child is another step towards evolving towards a greater species, towards gods, if you will. Humans have increasingly become more and more intelligent as we've gone along. We've created great cities, we've gone to the moon, things that people only a couple hundred years ago could only dream about. We are gods in the very literal sense of the word. And the fact that homosexual people can't have children means they can't be deified. It's great that we have homosexual people, but they can't be deified because it doesn't make sense biologically, philosophically, in every sense of the word. You can't be deified if you're going to live the homosexual lifestyle. Now, this may create a problem for homosexuals, as one kid in one of my institute classes asked the question, why did God make me gay? Tons of people are trying to pray the gay away, but they can't, because guess what? God's not just going to raise a magic wand and suddenly you're not going to be gay anymore. That is an eternal, or maybe not quite eternal, but it is a part of the person's being. It's like English. You can't unlearn English. You can't unlearn to be gay, but perhaps you can learn to be bisexual. Perhaps you can learn another language. And I gotta say, for the people that ask, why did God make me gay? That is the wrong question. What you should be asking is, did God make me gay, or did I make myself gay? Because if as Latter-day Saints, if we are to believe in the premortal life, that is to believe that our consciousness or intelligence has always existed, and God only just created our spirit bodies and our physical bodies, but our minds, our consciousness has always existed and will continue to exist, which means stop blaming God for what you are. You are responsible for your own self, your own choices. If you don't want to be gay, then learn to be bisexual. If you don't want to be straight, learn to be bisexual. I feel like people are more bisexual than they are willing to admit. Like, I consider football players, they're super masculine and broly on the field, and they're being cheered on by the most feminine of women. But as soon as they enter the locker room, they couldn't be more gay. They're slapping each other's butts. They're making homoerotic comments in the showers. It's just crazy. So I think we're more inclined to bisexuality than we'd like to think. I see tons of gay people making it work in a straight relationship, and I see lots of straight people one day just make a left turn and suddenly go into a homosexual relationship. We are more bisexual than we'd like to admit. And so what would be the purpose of a gay person? Well, I think gay people have this innate sensibility of simply loving another person. This one TED Talk I watched, the guy talked about how if everyone was gay, that would be a problem. But if everyone was a warrior, we would be constantly at war. So it's good that we have those men that are very in tune with their feminine side, that they maintain the peace at home and aren't constantly trying to cause fights or prove their masculinity. They simply want to keep the peace at home, and I think that is a very good and positive thing.
Oftentimes, modern anti-Mormonism doesn't refute Scripture, it fulfills it. And my fear is the Scripture that says in the latter days, men's hearts will fail them. This massive cynicism that has overcome our society, not just Mormonism, this is a microcosm that is representative of a massive macrocosm in the West. And if you want to look at the history of your faith through that cynical of a lens to interpret Joseph Smith or the Book of Mormon or any of these historical elements the way you guys are doing, why aren't you going to the embassy, the United States Embassy, when you figure out that the Wounded Knee battle that we gave all those Purple Hearts for wasn't actually a battle, but a massacre of innocent Indians was probably started by a mentally ill child, and that the guys that actually got the Purple Heart for being wounded in battle were shot most likely by friendly fire. When we find out about the massive overbombing of Western Germany, when we find out about these horrible civil rights violations that we have been engaged in as a country, you don't go to the embassy and forfeit your citizenship and then start an angry blog about how bad America is. When we find out that Thomas Jefferson probably had non-consensual relationships with a slave, and there's children that exist today from that, we don't forfeit our citizenship. So like, I worry that if we engage in this level of citicism, we will destroy ourselves.
Can I tell you why I don't in one sentence?
Yeah, sure. No, take your time. Like,
Because
I'll give you half
I
of
believe
mine.
that the United States of America is the greatest country that has ever existed in the history of the world.
So why can't we apply that same logic to the church? I think he should have elaborated on that. The fact that the things that the church has done doesn't compare to the things that America has done historically, and yet we call America the greatest country in the history of the world because of the values it stands for. And that's why I think the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the greatest church in the history of the world, because of the values that it stands for. The apostles aren't perfect. There's been some crazy stuff that has happened in the past. Brigham Young was quite the racist. Joseph Smith handled polygamy in the worst possible way imaginable. There was the Mountain Meadows Massacre. I could keep going on and on. And yet, I love how the church has made people believe in miracles, how we have all this rich history, these stories about people who simply want to believe in something good, who want to believe that they are children of God with divine potential to be gods themselves, to rule over universes and propagate them with their children. That is such a beautiful thing, and so I think it is the greatest church out there.
You're doing great. It's them first. You ready? This is the last one. It's not easy. In the first vision, Joseph Smith was plainly told that Christianity had fallen off the path most pleasing to God, and that he should join none of the denominations. He was told, according to the 1838-39 account, that the main villain of Christianity was their creeds, but also the heart of the professors of the faith. Also the heart of the professors of the faith, not just the creeds. In response to this question, which of all sects was right, Joseph Smith said, I was answered that I must join none of them, the churches, for they are all wrong. All their creeds are an abomination in his sight. That those professors were all corrupt, that they draw near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They teach doctrines, the commandments of men, having a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. Again, he forbade me to join any of them. In the face of that revelation and standard of the faith, at least when I was alive, this was the standard of the faith when I was alive, or in the church. What do you, as an active representative of the church today, maintain this view?
Actually, this is a very easy question to answer, especially after reading Friedrich Nietzsche's The Antichrist. Nietzsche was never truly anti-Christ. A more literal translation of the book is anti-Christian. Nietzsche admired Christ, but something that he wrote that I think is very significant is that there is only one Christian, and he died on the cross. And that is a very prophetic statement. His big argument against Christianity is that it creates weak-minded people that refuse to rise above mediocrity, that we are forever meant to just sing praises to God in heaven forever and ever, and just be completely happy and just have constant dopamine boosts without failure in the afterlife. But Nietzsche rejects this, and so do the Latter-day Saints. We believe that we are meant to rise above mediocrity. We are meant to be deified, become masters, become gods ourselves. Not to replace God, but to become our own masters nevertheless. And modern Christianity hates this. They vilify us because we think that we are gods. But this is something that Jesus Christ taught. He said, "Ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High," echoing David. That I take that in the very most literal sense of the word. That Jesus came to teach us how to be gods, how to live as gods, how to live to a higher moral standard, and not just give out participation trophies. Well, I think that's all I wanted to add for this to this debate. At the end of the day, was this debate productive? No. Because Radio Free Mormon was the same guy who came in and left. And I'm inclined to believe that, in some sense of the word, the same thing happened to Midnight Mormons. What should have been was, there should have been, at the end of the day, all right, good debate. Now tell us, what did you learn from the other side today that you can take home with you and apply to your own lives? That would have been a great way to end this, and it would have made everything come together and everything be very productive in nature. That's the only way to make debates like this productive, is if each side takes something home and implements something that they learned from the other side. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. Again, please subscribe. I don't think I'll be making any videos again anytime soon, but if I possibly get up to 200 subscribers, then I will definitely be more motivated to make more content. So please check out my other videos until then, and share this with others, and remember to keep it righteous.